Hi, everybody. I'm Deirdre Mahon, and I'm back in the Markov ML studio for our podcast. And for listeners today, Markov, we provide AI agents for modern go-to-market teams, getting work done efficiently, giving you time back in your day to focus on that high-value work. I encourage you to check it out, markovml.com. So the name of our podcast, for our regular listeners, hopefully you know this. What's data and AI got to do with it? So, as marketers, we have lots of data and information every day. So, you need better insights, you need to make faster decisions, and of course, take action. And our guests are practicing marketers and GTM pros. And the goal of the podcast is to inform practical advice. And we'll focus on the real, authentic stories, any challenges teams are facing. We'll celebrate wins and no judgment, only learning. So let's dive in. And our guest today is Will Vasquez. Will and I have known each other for some years, and he's currently at Sixth Sense. We were chatting ahead of time and getting to know what that's all about, and newer there, but congratulations, Will. And Will is a marketer, but he's also directly helping customers adopt technology and AI solutions. So big thumbs up. And Will, tell us your journey and how you got into that.
Well, thanks, Deirdre. Appreciate you having me on your show. And hopefully, this is helpful for the listeners out there. So, my journey took me early in my career from media and publishing, where I really learned the value of content and how it resonates and engages people. The magazine business was based on sales of magazines, and you had to love the content. But I also got the business side of it, and that had to do with advertising. And that's how my journey through media. I transitioned through the magazine business into ad sales and then eventually into SaaS through the Great Recession when dot-com implosion. I ended up going to a company that had helped me grow my business in media, and that was GoToMeeting. That was with Citrix online business. Some people will remember that. It's been a long time since I've been on a GoToMeeting, sadly. But that experience, when I went to work for them, I actually started in sales, and that really gave me a great understanding for the buyer's journey, the challenges, what a buying engagement looks like for a SaaS product. And shortly thereafter, I found my opportunity to go work in the marketing department. I basically pitched them and said, look, I understand what your buyers are going through. You're sending these leads to sales and they are not really ready, or they're not really a good fit for us. And I think I can help you in that regard. Would you let me come over? I have marketing experience. I can work with your media teams. And they let me come over there. And that started my journey into account based, working with the media organization, working with the creative organization, and working with the BDR organization to then target and drive good leads from good accounts to the sales org. So all that led to a number of other software companies since then, and here I am at Sixth Sense.
Nice. I love that you shared that you came from the sales background. I actually think as marketers, the closer we work with sales, the better. And the closer we jointly work with customers and prospects and really listen to their needs, the better. So, sometimes I think, well, gone are the days that marketing do this anymore, and we're not as in our little ivory tower, so to speak. But if we can get out and like really have like live customer conversations and prospects, the better.
Uh,
So yeah, also like the ABM, I always used to say account-based marketing. It's actually account-based sales and marketing. So it should be
Absolutely.
ABSM, right? But I think you and I are both pretty aligned there in terms of the approach it takes. But can you tell me, like, why is ABS so important to Sixth Sense?
Sure, sure. So, I'll just try and give you my best interpretation, though probably someone on our executive team can do a better job at this. But, Sixth Sense has always been focused on revenue generation, through the unique lens of an account-based go-to-market strategy, as of course compared to a lead-based strategy. Their core value has always been shining light on the dark funnel. And that being all the anonymous research that occurs when an account starts to understand their problems, seek out the solutions to their business challenges. So Sixth Sense, really was designed to not only visualize that dark funnel, but also enable the go-to-market teams to action on those signals. So, in my mind, their technology was way ahead of its time back in 2012, 2013 when they started, and they remain an advanced AI first and agentic AI platform offering, which, in my opinion, is exactly where we should be right now. So, I'm pretty excited about it. And I think that that's kind of their history in this space. And they have a clear vision of where they're going next.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, every provider of technology for marketing teams is leaning into AI heavily, so that's great. I'm assuming Sixth Sense is really thinking about those integration hooks to other applications and other run the business applications. So the beautiful thing about Sixth Sense is and I actually am a customer, but the great thing is that like it's the data that I need, right? And the fastest way to get access to rich data about an account that I deem an ICP. And then how I capitalize on that is the next step, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, I love that. So, tell me, like stepping back now, not just Sixth Sense World, but you're an ABM marketer and expert. So the promise of ABM is really valuable. Like it just makes total logical sense, right? Why is it so hard to pull off?
Boy, is it though. That's probably why I have a job. You and I talked about this way back when. I want to say, Deirdre, people process technology, right? As we know, ABM is a cross-functional go-to-market strategy that requires change management, shared vision, trust, cohesion across the go-to-market teams. What happens is often the teams don't have a real understanding of the motion and what it's required and the level of collaboration that's required in order to successfully adopt and adapt to the strategy. The technology is readily available, but the people who understand the strategy and can help their organizations adapt and adopt the strategy is often the gap that we see. It's exactly why I came over to Sixth Sense and joining the strategic services team to help clients not only adopt the platform, the technology to maximize their ROI, but also help identify and support process gaps and ultimately people gaps that sabotage the program, their ABX program.
Yeah. So when we think of an ABM, yeah, it has to be an agreed upon tops down, bottoms up. Like you're all agreeing on this is what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, why we're going to do it, and how you're going to measure it, right? Like every plan, right? It has to have measurable outcomes. It's hard to pull off because you're actually trying to get humans to do things differently than they did it before, right? Like that's a challenge,
Precisely.
in and of itself, right? Because they're already busy with many other tools. Um, so like roughly speaking, like how long does it take, let's say a mid-size organization to adopt an ABM approach? How long would that take? Is it a multi-month effort or a multi-year effort?
Well, I would say you give them a year to, understand, to align. There's the concept of storming, forming, norming, and performing. And, it depends on the level of skills and understanding at that organization. I kind of say butts in seat. How many, do you have people that are, already handling some of the key roles and responsibilities? And do you have people who will straddle, as an ABMer, will straddle marketing, sales, and maybe even the tech ops teams? So, I think what usually happens is that, people launch with a pilot. There's, the storming and the forming, and then they launch, and then it's norming and performing. And it takes a while, and you have to be patient, but you also need a few key people in place, in my opinion.
Yeah. So the early results are usually not realized until you get to forming stage. And then performing is like, oh, now we're measuring and optimizing, but you probably don't see results. And truly, the results have to come from the revenue team. They have to come from that, like, we're actually getting business, we're closing, right?
Right. Yeah, precisely.
Yeah, and I think you tell me if this is wrong, but the marketing team is usually the one who's spearheading and sponsoring and budgeting and funding it, but they're actually doing it in serve of the revenue team. Is that true?
I mean, yeah, you could absolutely characterize it in that way because ultimately the account-based strategy is all about targeting the right accounts, and inherently, sales believes that they have a good understanding of what a good account looks like as a prospect, and they are
Yeah.
hoping that your go-to-market strategy adopting ABX will focus more resources against those good types of accounts.
Yeah. It's very much an aligning, it forces an alignment between sales and marketing.
Precisely, and a partnership on how we're going to work those accounts.
Yeah. In your like just to like linger on that for a second, in your experience, are the best projects with the best outcomes, are they the ones where the marketing and sales leader is completely on the same page?
Yeah, by far,
I'm kind of
100%.
assuming that, but like,
It
is
is,
that true?
but as you can imagine, many times marketing is just given this mandate that they're going to do account based. And sales, if they're not brought to the table early and they don't understand what account based selling means, then they don't operate any differently and results, will suffer.
Yeah, fair, because they have to pick up the baton, as you so to speak. Yeah.
And provide feedback, to the ABM team, right? There needs to be a feedback loop that is just not just we didn't get a meeting or an opportunity created here. We need more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. And so, like, why is data so critical to getting started with ABM? I'm assuming you have to have data, right?
Yeah, the data key the data part is so important. We're targeting a market. We need to have reliable firmographic, technographic, data in order for us to understand our ICP. In a account-based approach, you're not targeting your TAM, you're targeting a portion of your TAM that you have deemed to be the most valuable part of that potential target market that you can go after. And that has to come from not only the data provider for the open target market, but also your internal data sources. If we're not able to enrich those data, the CRM data and the MAP data, but mostly CRM, that is not enriched and up to date and has good hygiene and governance, then the old adage, garbage in, garbage out. You end up targeting the wrong accounts at scale.
Yeah, which is a lot of time wasted and a lot of frustration. And so, like, step one for a good ABM account or strategy is step one to get your data sorted.
100%.
Yeah.
100%
Okay.
because yeah, 100% your step one is data sorted. Your step one, your foundational, and we actually do this at Sixth Sense for our customers. We have an ABX adoption maturity model that categorizes areas of responsibility, and let's call them use cases, as foundational, and then progressively, more mature activation, expansion towards a full connected revenue producing operation. Foundational element number one, your target market, your ICP. Do you have you collaborated together as a team between sales, marketing, product marketing to determine, what does good look like? We start with the end in mind. And if then we need to rely on good data providers to say composition analysis, what do these accounts have attributes wise, firmographics, technographics, or other attributes that we can then use for targeting and scaling out and creating a segmentation strategy within our ABM program.
Gotcha. All right. So let's say when it comes to the measurement part and how are you measuring results, um, how do you actually prove then that it was worth the investment, right? You're hopefully going full circle there.
Oh my gosh. That is such a tough question. I don't know that there's a short answer because, as we've just been talking, there's people and process challenges that are a huge part of the equation. And if those are failing, so is the ROI, right? But I think if you're looking for verifiable outcomes from the change you've initiated, you need to look at some of the, like you said, some of the revenue metrics to begin with. And it's, when you prove it, was it worth the investment? Are we talking about investment in the tech or the strategy or both? Right. So it's always a difficult challenge, I think, for many companies to demonstrate ROI, especially if they come from a lead based motion and have never done account based. I was once given the explanation or the example. Well, how do you prove the ROI of using Salesforce or Marketo? It's an exceedingly difficult thing to do because it crosses multiple teams, right? So if I had to give you maybe in my mind, the simplest answer is A, normalize your data so you can look at the business from an account perspective. Even if you're only doing lead gen, look at the opportunities created, their down funnel conversion metrics, and focus on deal size, median deal sizes. Averages are not good here, right? You want to know what the regular run rate of your deal sizes have been, and then compare that to your ABM program. If you see higher ADS, average deal sizes, then you know you're on the right track towards long-term success. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good way to look at it as well. It's not just, "Oh, look, we closed more deals." It could be actually deeper penetration into an account or just higher ASP. So there's lots of different metrics. But again, I think knowing what you want to aim for going into it and getting alignment on that is key, because otherwise then the team is sort of a little bit clutching at straws and trying to figure out, oh, look, this changed or that changed. So you have to probably have an open mind, but also surface those expectations early on so that everyone's on the same page. Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, if you, if the teams start to see some early success that they've targeted a segment of the market, they've driven engagement, they've surfaced them to sales, sales has worked them, and that they're closing that business, they just end up improving that skill set and finding, we call it finding the red, inspect what you expect. So you find inspection points along the workflows and along the buyer's journey to see where you can optimize and just keep improving that. Because if you've closed five, you can close 10. If you've closed 10, you can close 100. Why not close them from average deal size accounts? That's the promise.
Yeah. I always have this belief that, like ABM, we talked already about this. It's not for the faint of heart. You have to be committed to it. You have to get alignment off across so many teams. So it's hard for a small, nimble, young company to do this. I think you have to be more mature, further along, have a good sense of who your true ICP is. Because younger companies that are still growing and figuring it out, they don't actually really all agree on who the ICP is. So, I like that what you said is, okay, you've got like 10 under your belt or 20, and then you're trying to scale. This approach works better. The challenge with younger companies, they're under pressure to prove it. They're under pressure to get pipeline 3, 5x every Q, start the clock every quarter, pressure, pressure. And they don't even have time or appetite or energy to deploy this beautiful ABM campaign that's like a multi-pronged effort. And I think therefore it is better suited to companies that are a little bit more stable and further along. Would you agree?
100% agree that, younger companies are looking to still understand where their product market fit is and where they really add value to organizations out in the marketplace, right? So if they can start to understand some footholds, I guess my recommendation would be they can start to understand some segments, some areas where they believe they can consistently win and they end up with good accounts and there's great product market fit. That's where you pilot, even for a small, that's where you pilot your targeting. It's basically just, okay, my account-based program is going to be in this vertical with these key personas in this size of company. And we're just going to spend a little bit more money toward and activate more programs to engage the right personas up and down the layers, below the line, above the line. So director below and VP and above, we're going to go deeper. with our programs to try and engage those folks. That's the extent of it, and you prove it out from there. That would be my only recommendation for a small scale account-based program.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Okay, so a couple of more questions on this, and then we'll move to the AI portion. So, because ABM involves so many team members, how do you convince the powers that be on the patience? Like, how do you convince them that, oh no, you have to pull in these team members?
Oh my gosh, do we have enough time to dive into this? That's always such a tough one because, well, look, I think that ABM has to be driven by leadership at some level, right? It's going to be hard pressed for a director to drive this because if they don't have leadership support. So it has to be adopted as an initiative at the C level or at the leadership level. Again, going back to that concept of sale and the reason why this happens is because sales feels like they should be focusing the company should be focusing resources on high value accounts. So that's usually, the convincing part usually comes from sales. We need to do something differently here. And I think this approach is viable. The patience is the hardest part, of course. Early commitment, I would say, to a few people who know how to do ABM and are dedicated, not part-timers, to the program is critical because they're the ones to report out on the leading indicators of success and evangelize the early wins that will eventually scale. If the powers that be assume that by providing their current teams with an ABM platform will deliver on the strategy, well, we all know how that ends.
Yeah, I hear you.
Start with a chuckle, end with a chuckle, but that's
Yeah,
kind of the reality of what happens. You can't just throw technology at a go-to-market strategy.
yeah,
People process
yeah.
technologies.
Makes sense. Have you got any scary data stories that you wanted to share?
Scary data? Yeah, old data is scary data. No, target account lists that people are still using in marketing from 2 years ago. That happened recently with an enterprise level company I found out about, and I was like, "Oh, we cannot be doing this. Please let me help you." That was kind of scary. Sending emails to contacts that you haven't verified in 6 months or less. I think that's scary in my mind. I think that's wasteful. I think it dilutes your efficacy of the program. Devil's always in the details, right? Data decay is a very real thing, as all my friends in the global data provider world continually remind me of.
Yeah.
Recency is gold.
It's organic, it's living, breathing. I know I literally looked at a list today and I was going through it. I'm like, oh no, this company got acquired. So it's no longer that company, right?
Good case, good
Yeah.
example for sure.
Yeah. All right. So let's go to our AI stories. So, AI, you can't avoid it these days, right? Well, it's everywhere.
Heck yeah. Heck
Like
yeah, I
the,
love it.
yeah, let's embrace it and not be afraid of it, right?
Yeah.
So, are you using AI tech today to help you execute more efficiently? I'm assuming you're using ChatGPT, of course, in some capacity, but how are you thinking about adopting AI in your role?
Yeah, Deirdre, I mean, first of all, I've always been a technologist. So for me, AI was a promise and I was waiting for its day to come and it's coming in like a tidal wave, especially I mean, we saw it, start with Amazon, recommendations. We saw it with facial recognition, Google Photos. I mean, I was blown away when I could just put my face and say, show me all the pictures of me. And 1,000 pictures came up. So today in marketing and
And
ABM,
your dog. Did you ask about the dog?
my dog. I'm kidding. Yes, exactly. You can name your dog on your phone, and then all the pictures of your dog come up. It's wonderful. And the dog and me together. But absolutely, we use ChatGPT and other platforms, Gemini and other things. I use mostly like a ChatGPT platform to help bring context to our communications with clients. As for the Sixth Sense platform, I think, as I mentioned earlier, Sixth Sense is an AI first company. It's now an agentic AI company. I'm happy to be near the forefront of AI in the workplace, not at the bleeding edge, but just a little back, is kind of perfect for me.
I always say embrace it, don't be afraid of it. Experimentation is great, but when you have too many experiments, that can be a little hectic and a bit confusing. So sort of like try the experiments on a specific use case or a problem that you're going to solve or a task, as opposed to it can be overwhelming when you're trying to attack it with a big complex type of workflow thing you're trying to do. Like start with the baby steps first is what I always recommend.
100% spot on.
So, do you think some marketers are afraid of AI? And if so, how should they overcome the fear?
Hmm. I mean, I certainly have seen it, but it just makes me think like there's nothing to fear but fear itself. I mean, they've already been using AI, like we talked about, right? Search results have AI now. They've been using it in different ways with other technologies. I will say that AI is hitting marketing and sales like a tidal wave, and we simply cannot be afraid of using it. I think the best quote I've heard recently goes something like this: AI won't replace marketers, but marketers who know and use AI will replace those who don't, right?
Yes, exactly.
Like if you're not using it now, you're at risk for sure because it's easy, it's powerful, it makes you smarter. There's no reason not to use it. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. And to that end, don't feel like you're in this alone. Like, it's so new and it's so fast moving that jump in, head and feet first, and then lean on your fellow, work colleagues or your community of marketers, join communities and just learn with them. And like I know, Will, you're busy all day long, right? And as are most marketers, where it's a busy kind of job that we have because we're always producing. You go on LinkedIn, there's a never-ending stream of people sharing advice and content and suggestions and templates. So you could like spend your day just soaking up all that learning. So I say just devote a little bit of time each week, and even if it's on a Sunday afternoon to just brush up on the latest greatest, then you're doing yourself a favor and bring that to your colleagues.
Would you like one of my favorite marketing AI courses that I've found
Yeah, yeah,
experience with?
go for it.
Marketing AI Institute, Paul Rotzer's company. Have you heard of that organization yet?
No,
Marketing AI Institute. Their courses are fantastic, Deirdre. Concise, they're easy to digest. They do a fantastic job. I highly recommend them for anyone who's, especially like us, busy professionals. Take that Sunday afternoon, sign up, take the first class. In a couple of days, you'll be done with it, and you will have a rich understanding very quickly where to go, how to do it, the example you gave earlier that was so spot on around finding a single use case, they actually walk you through, and I think they even gave me a template, a spreadsheet of how to bring AI to my company using single use cases and how to evaluate its efficacy as to whether or not does it help improve my team's workflows and processes, save me money, have good ROI.
love it.
Absolutely good one.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't have to wait for your company to send you on a course. You could just do it on your own, right? I mean, we're all learning together as professionals.
That's what I did. I just considered it an investment in myself for right now.
There you go. So that's good advice. Thank you. And then one last question before I let you go. So how do we think about AI and ABM together? So what's new and innovative with that practice?
Yeah. Yeah. I think as with all use cases, find the ones where AI augments the human. I mean, I love the way you kind of differentiate human and technology. Yeah, find the ones where AI augments the human, takes the mundane and repetitive work out of their hands and allows the human to focus on more critical work. That's where you're going to find big gains. AI plus human workflows is today's best use of AI, in my opinion, when we're pairing them together. A great example, if you don't mind me plugging 6sense, a great example of that is our 6sense email platform, where we use agentic AI to automate email responses and outbound programs with AI-enabled conversations and decision making, all geared towards aiding the sales org to focus on high value workloads. It's truly amazing with verifiable outcomes for those use cases. It's become transformative already for companies who are early adopters.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, you get to listen with the customer, learn, and hear their feedback directly when you're getting in your new role, like guiding customers. That's awesome because you're learning firsthand with them.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is. It
yeah,
is really a cool opportunity.
yeah. I like it. Well, Will, thank you for your time today. It's good to see you and your dog so well behaved. What's the dog's name again?
Koshi, my daughter named
Cozy.
him Koshi. I hear that means translates to trouble in Hebrew. Someone told me, a Jewish friend down the street, and I said, "Really?" She said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, spot on naming that by my daughter."
But Koshi's way more calm and well
Yeah.
behaved. Obviously, Koshi had his walk today, so that's probably a good thing.
I'm glad he didn't hear you say that word.
Uh,
He's asleep. I love it. All right.
all right.
Thanks
Well,
for joining.
thanks again for your time, Will, and stay well. And we'll see you next time on the Markov podcast studio.
Thanks for having me. Be well.
Take care. Bye bye.